Macmillan Audio presents Born of Fury by Sherrilyn Kenyon. Read for you by Berman. Prologue. Kill or be killed. That was the single law of a League assassin, and it was the reminder that had been branded onto Sumi Antaxas' arm when the devil had taken her soul in exchange for the life of the only family she had left, the only family that had ever really mattered to her. Now, as good as I am, I'm going to be slaughtered with extreme and utter prejudice. She had no doubt as she watched the video playback of the attack on a League prison from a few months ago. An attack led by the Carinese Emperor and a joint Sentella Tavali strike force. Sumi suppressed a low, appreciative whistle as she watched them battling against an overwhelming League force. Heroic was one thing, moronic was quite another. And in a move that was as brazen as it was stupid, Emperor Darling Cruel had led a group of rebels in to free his captured people, that included his wife, from League custody. Then, right as he would have escaped clean-free in a fit of rage, he'd revealed his identity to the Prime Commander of the League. Not only that Darling was the Carinese Emperor making this strike, but that he was also a founding member of the High Command of the Sentella, the one organization that truly threatened the reign and control of the League on the planets that made up their universe. And it didn't help that the League's Prime Commander, Keir Zemin, had a personal grudge against the Emperor from years ago. That only fueled the war that was now being fought between the League and the Sentella, a war that was quickly forcing all known governments to take sides. Right there. That's the bastard. She forced herself not to cringe as Prime Commander Zemin pointed to the monitor in front of her and froze the scene of two men blowing the door on the prison. Well over 6 feet in height, Commander Zemin had the same intensity as a homicidal psych patient. His right eye was covered with a black leather patch that didn't conceal the scars of the wound that had taken it. Rumors claimed that the eye had been lost in a furious fight with the legendary League assassin Nemesis, a man who was one of Emperor Cruel's best friends, and one of the men who'd been in on that prison attack. The identity of Nemesis was also known for a fact, since he'd ripped his helmet off during that historic raid and had publicly backed the Carinese Emperor in this insane war. But like Darling, Nemesis came with his own army and was completely untouchable. The rest of their friends were not so fortunate. She glanced up at the commander, who was so angry as he watched the playback that it was a miracle steam really didn't roll out of his ears, or his nose for that matter. Cursing, he paced the room around her, making her even more nervous that he might use her as a scapegoat for the men he couldn't touch. He wore his brown hair long and braided down his back, a holdover from the days when he'd been one of the top League assassins, before he'd executed his predecessor and had claimed his place as head badass. Keir narrowed his left silvery blue eye on her. Pay attention and note the taller of the two men. It was hard not to notice the ferocious warrior he spoke of. He dwarfed the man he was with by a good 8 inches. For that matter, he towered over everyone except Nemesis, who was only 2 to 3 inches shorter. But Nemesis was only about half the man's muscle mass. She sucked her breath in sharply. That warrior was the biggest man Sumi had ever laid eyes on. It was terrifying, really. Especially the way he expertly cut through the highly trained League soldiers as if they were mannequins. There was a brutal grace to the way he fought. He showed no hesitation or mercy as he literally plowed his way through her compadres and freed the Carinese political prisoners. The warrior didn't even flinch when he was shot or stabbed. The wounds only made him fight harder, more determined, deadlier. Damn. A furious tick worked in Commander Zemin's jaw as he watched over her shoulder. I know that hulking monster's dancer, Hauk. I know it. I can tell by the way the mutant bastard moves. There aren't that many beings of his.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?